Yesterday, we heard awful news in the world of Formula One that one of the sport's all-time greats, not only drivers on the track, but also personalities off the track, Niki Lauda, has passed away. And if you've been following this channel now for the last year, you will know if anyone ever asks me what's my dream team in Formula One, I always have said Jim Clark and Niki Lauda. This guy truly will be one of Formula One's legends forever. And I just wanted to put this post at the beginning of this video. The rest of the video had already been recorded, but I just wanted to throw this in at the beginning just to say all of my thoughts and prayers are with Niki's family and the Mercedes team that he has called home for so many years now. Thank you. Welcome back to the weekly mailbox. I am back as well. It's been a little while, hasn't it? It's been almost a few weeks now since there's been any real sort of consistent content or any of that good stuff on this channel. But I am back, and hopefully it should be back to normal. And the weekly mailbox, I feel, is a pretty naughty video to start off with. You guys asking me questions, having a bit of a chill for 10 minutes as we discuss some Formula One. Sometimes we're controversial, sometimes we're plain boring. You never know quite what you're going to get in this video. But as always, if you want to ask me questions for next week, throw them in the comment section below and I will wade through and pick the best ones for next week. First off then, we have a question from Sophonis Michael, we will say. He asks, anyway, after watching the first 5 races, who do you think will lose their seat next year? What will happen with that second Red Bull seat, and will Fernando Alonso make a return in 2021? Lots to carve down here and break down, but the main reason I wanted to ask this is that there are a few drivers underperforming at the moment, and I think there definitely will be changes next season, if not halfway through this season. So look, most of the grid I think will remain the same. I think that's fair enough to say, isn't it? They're all doing a pretty solid job, and it is early doors, but there are some drivers. Robert Kubica, he's really struggled on his return to Formula One. I question whether there's other drivers coming up through lower categories that I'm not necessarily saying are better, but I think will match Kubica and potentially could bring more funds to a team like Williams. So I think he's definitely going to be in the limelight for the rest of this season. Giovinazzi, he's not really doing too great so far, is he? He generally seems to be the guy that's last out of the, what I'm going to call the midfield pack, just in front of the Williams. That seems to be where he's fitting in this season, so I thought he'd be a lot closer to Kimi Räikkönen. So Giovinazzi, I'm questioning at the moment. Can he be on the grid next year? He's going to have to find some form pretty soon, I would imagine. Gasly, this was highlighted in the question itself. I think he's fine. We spoke about him a few times on the channel. I think he's doing the perfect job for Red Bull right now. I'm not asking too many questions of Verstappen, letting him crack on with it and lead the team. He's picking up points. He's consistently getting in that 6th place now, which, yes, at the end of next season, if that's the case, they might look to move him on, but at the moment, I think he's the right man for the job. Grosjean, a much better race in Spain, thank goodness. That put a smile on my face. Potentially, if he had another difficult season, I think he could maybe be moved on, which would bring a tear to my eye, yes, but that potentially could happen. And Sebastian Vettel, difficult start for the German. I question whether, if the season continues like it will, whether he will stay at Ferrari. Not too sure about that one, but those are the kind of guys I'm thinking at the moment potentially could be moving around. But there's another question later on about the grid in a couple of years time potentially, so we'll look back at this in a minute. Second question comes from LGS. Do you agree with Helmut Marko when he says that Max has been flawless so far this season? Yes, I do. Oh, yes, I do. And you know what? Over the past season and a little bit, I have been critical of Max. I'm happy to say that, you know, especially at the beginning of last year with all the troubles he had. I was highlighting those because I didn't think he was as good as he could be. And this season, I've almost been proved right because he is destroying it. He is doing such a good job in that Red Bull. I think at only one race this year, he's come away from that event not being third in the standings, which is crazy considering that Ferrari, everyone said were going to be so good, and considering so many people, including myself, thought that Red Bull potentially could be in a midfield fight. And going into Monaco, a track where Red Bull potentially could get a win, maybe could be favourites. I mean, this guy truly, is he the guy? Is he the chosen one to take down Mercedes this season? Because Ferrari, their car isn't good enough. They've made a few mistakes here, there and everywhere, and all of that has just piled on top of them so much that 5-1-2s in a row is incredible by Mercedes. But who is going to end that streak? At the moment, it looks like it's going to be Max. He seems like the only one, in my opinion, that really has put enough of a good run together to be able to swing that form into Monaco to potentially take down Mercedes. But let me know in the comments below, do you think Max Verstappen will be the chosen one to destroy the Mercedes streak? Next question, Red Blue 35. Since the 2012 season was one of the most competitive, do you think Formula 1 should go back to those Aero regulations? Love this question. Mainly because I just love talking about 2012. What a season that was. And how crazy is it that this season, 5-1-2s in a row, 2012, the first 7 races were won by 7 different drivers. So the contrast is extreme. But to answer the question, no, I don't think Formula 1 will ever go backwards in time to different regulations. I mean, that step nose, yes, the racing was closer, but even looking at that Williams there, not the best looking machine that Formula 1 has ever produced. I think what Formula 1 needs to do, a little bit like the 2017 regulations, is take things from the past and try to adapt them for the future. People say the 2017 and the current regulations are very similar to 2007, 2008 kind of style of the cars. I like the look now, but inherently, racing isn't good. So if they can somehow get regulations like 2012, where the racing is that close and unpredictable, and yet the cars still look good, I think that's what they're going to try and go for. But to be honest, I think they would never go backwards in time to read off old regulations directly, if that makes sense. But 2012, what a season, and you know what, if they did, I would not be opposed to it whatsoever. Next question, Joel Reed asks, when will Ocon come back? This is the one that I kind of alluded to earlier on when talking about driver lineups for next season, 2021, because there are going to be a lot of drivers fighting for seats. But as I spoke about at the beginning, I don't really think that many drivers are going to be moving around over the next couple of seasons, and I don't think that many are going to be leaving the sport. So Ocon's real chance, I think, is at Williams, which he will not be a fan of whatsoever. Either that, or he waits another season and hopes he can get into Mercedes in the hope that maybe Hamilton or Vettel retire and there's a little bit of a shakeabout. Maybe, but that seems unlikely considering how this season has gone, and considering that next year, I think teams are going to be shaping their own teams for 2021, that big regulation change. So it looks really difficult for Ocon to find anywhere at the moment. So if I was him, I think he's got to try his best to get into Williams, because at the moment, George Russell is getting racing time, which at the end of the day, I'm sure a few people right now have already forgotten about Esteban Ocon. Because when he's not on circuit, when he's just in the background, people do very easily forget in Formula 1. So he's got to be careful, but I personally think he's got to just get any seat possible at this point in time now, because at the moment, he's not racing, he's not getting that experience, and he's going to get forgotten and left behind, which I think would be awful. I don't think he was A-star standard, Esteban Ocon, but I think he was a solid driver, and I want to see him get another chance in Formula 1. So my best guess will be next year with Williams. Apart from that, it's really difficult to say, but I like this question a lot, so thank you, Joel. And our final question from the week comes from Zayef. This one is for you guys as well. I will do my answer in short, and as always, the final question, you can have a debate in the comments. Do you think that Red Bull will be able to finish higher than third in the championship this season? It's going to be a hell of a task. It really is, because whilst we're going to races like Monaco, we've got races like Singapore, Hungary on the calendar this season, where they should be able to fight potentially for a race win over an entire season, with Honda coming in for their first year together. I think there will be issues, and so far there's been hardly any, which is brilliant. But to have that consistency across the entire season, I'm still a little bit wary. We're only 5 races in, remember. That being said, Verstappen is on fire. So I expect him, every single race this year, to be up there with Ferrari, potentially challenging Mercedes. The big issue here really is Gasly, and that's the big question mark that I really have to put on this sort of fight for third, second in the title, if you want to call it that, with Red Bull, is that if they want to be better than third, Gasly's going to have to be on the podium, or at least fighting to be on the podium, at least fighting the Ferrari guys, which at the moment he's not doing. Room for growth is definitely there, but its life at Red Bull hasn't quite gone to plan so far. So I'm leaving it up to you guys. I personally think it's going to be a little bit too much to ask to expect third, but it potentially could happen. And that's your lot for the weekly mailbox. Let me know in the comments below your questions for next week. They don't have to be Formula 1. They don't even have to be racing related if you really don't want. But thank you for watching as always. Like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.